Good evening. Welcome to South Asia Newsline. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Here are the top stories we're tracking for you on Tuesday, the 3rd of January. India inaugurates key infrastructure projects in Arunachal Pradesh weeks after Tawang clash. Activists protest against Pakistani atrocities, illegal fishing in Balochistan. And Taliban seeks economic self-sufficiency and foreign investment for Afghanistan. And now for all the details, India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh on Tuesday inaugurated 28 key infrastructure projects across 7 states from Siang district of India's Arunachal Pradesh. The visit was the first after the recent clash of Indian and Chinese forces in Tawang sector of Arunachal Pradesh. Singh said India has never captured an inch of land from any country, but this should not be taken for granted.
India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh on Tuesday inaugurated 28 key infrastructure projects of BRO, the Border Roads Organisation, across 7 states from Siang district of India's Arunachal Pradesh, weeks after a border face-off with China in the state's Tawang region. Singh described the projects as a testament to the concerted efforts of the government and the BRO towards the development of border areas in order to enhance the operational preparedness of the armed forces and ensure socio-economic development of the far-flung regions. In a veiled indication towards China, the Defence Minister said, India has not captured an inch of land from any country, but this should not be taken for granted. Adding further, he said, India does not believe in war, but if forced, it will fight. We are ensuring that the nation is protected from all threats, he said.
भारत ने कभी भी कोई युद्ध अपनी तरफ से प्रारंभ नहीं किया और न ही किसी देश की 1 इंच जमीन पर भारत ने कभी कब्जा किया है। यदि कोई हमारी इस सदाशयता या शांति प्रियता को हमारी कमजोरी समझने लगे, तो मैं उसे बताना चाहूंगा कि हम शांति के उपासक तो हैं ही, हम शक्ति के भी उपासक हैं।
India has sped up the infrastructure development in the regions adjoining the line of actual control, which borders China, in wake of the recent clash at Tawang. The two Asian superpowers have a tense relationship since 2020, when both forces engaged in a deadly clash in Galwan Valley of Ladakh region.
Moving on, a day after 6 people were killed in 2 separate terror attacks in Rajouri district of India's Jammu and Kashmir, a huge crowd of mourners gathered for the last rites of the deceased on Tuesday. The incident came 2 weeks after 2 civilians were shot dead by terrorists outside an army camp in the district.
A large crowd, including family members and relatives of 6 people who died in 2 terror attacks, gathered in Rajouri district of India's Jammu and Kashmir on Tuesday for the last rites of the deceased. 4 civilians, including a father-son duo, were gunned down by terrorists who barged into their homes in Rajouri's Dangri area on Sunday evening. Following the attack, security personnel were investigating the residential neighborhood when a blast took place, killing 2 children and injuring around 6 others on Monday. Hundreds crowded the cremation grounds to mourn the loss of lives.
हिंदू, मुस्लिम, सिख, ईसाई तमाम लोग मिलकर इसका मुकाबला करेंगे और दूसरा जो है ये जो हमारा सिक्योरिटी अपरेटस का फेलियर वो भी देखना चाहिए कि वो कहाँ पे फेलियर है, क्यों ऐसी इंसिडेंट्स हो रहे हैं। इसके ऊपर भी रियासती हुकूमत को और मरकजी हुकूमत को ध्यान देना चाहिए कि ये लोग कहाँ से आ रहे हैं, कैसे आ रहे हैं और कौन लोग हैं जो ये कदम उठा रहे हैं।
पुंछ में इतना शांति हुई थी, अभी ये फिर दोबारा आ गए हैं। हमारी न्यू जनरेशन देखने के लिए तैयार थी। अभी ये चीज़ें हम हटे थे, हमें थोड़ा और कहीं जाना था कि मैं चाहता हूँ स्कॉटिश को देखना चाहिए, स्कॉटिश जो वीक है उसको देखना चाहिए।
Meanwhile, a team of India's National Investigation Agency or NIA was investigating the attacks which came 2 weeks after 2 civilians were shot dead by terrorists outside an army camp in Rajouri on December 16. India has long accused neighboring Pakistan backs terrorists to spread unrest in Kashmir Valley, a charge Islamabad denies.
In news from Pakistan, Pakistan's National Security Committee has vowed to have a zero-tolerance policy against terrorism in the country. In a meeting chaired by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, the committee resolved to use full force of the state against terrorism. The forum also discussed a roadmap to revive the country's dipping economy.
Pakistan's National Security Committee (NSC) vowed to have a zero-tolerance policy against terrorism in the country after the second round of meeting was held on Monday at the Prime Minister's office. According to the press release issued by the Prime Minister's office, the committee resolved to use full force of the state against terrorism, adding that Pakistan reserves all rights in that respect to safeguard its citizens. In an apparent indication towards Afghanistan, the statement read, "Forum concluded, no country will be allowed to provide sanctuaries and facilitation to terrorists." Later, in a tweet, Sharif informed an economic roadmap to revive the economy and provide relief was also discussed in the meeting held over 2 rounds. Meanwhile, Pakistan's Defence Minister Khwaja Asif has alleged that Afghan soil is being used by terrorists against Pakistan. Talking to a local media channel, the minister said that the Pakistan government is in constant touch with Afghans regarding the border violations. The statement comes after Pakistan's Interior Minister Rana Sanaullah made a similar accusation, saying that the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan or TTP is using Afghan soil to attack Pakistan. However, the Taliban-run Defence Ministry in Kabul in response termed the allegations as false and provocative. Pakistan has witnessed a sharp rise in terrorism incidents, especially in its border areas, during the past 2 months after the TTP announced to end ceasefire with Pakistan.
Moving on, scores of Baloch activists staged a demonstration in London on Monday to highlight human rights violations by Pakistani security forces in Balochistan after a crackdown on indigenous people recently. They also demanded a ban on illegal fishing in Gwadar port area, which they said is depriving local fishermen of their livelihood.
Members of the Baloch Republican Party held a protest in London on Monday to highlight human rights violations by Pakistani security forces in Balochistan after a crackdown on locals in the region for demanding their fundamental rights. The protesters in London highlighted recent police brutality against locals in Gwadar port area as massive protests for basic civic amenities and to demand a ban on illegal fishing were underway, which is affecting the livelihood of indigenous people. They also voiced concern over rising cases of physical intimidation and enforced disappearances as Pakistani forces operate with impunity in the wake of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor or CPEC.
वो ये चाह रहे थे कि हमें एजुकेशन दिया जाए, हमें इलेक्ट्रिक की सहूलियत दिया जाए और हमें जो है साफ पानी दिया जाए और हमारे जो ट्रोलरिंग है जो समंदर में मतलब सिंध से या पंजाब से आके ट्रोलरिंग करते हैं और जो नस्लकुशी कर रहे हैं वहाँ पे वो उनकी जो है वो मतलब रोजगार ग्वादर के बस नहीं यानी पूरे मक्रान बेल्ट के वहाँ से वो मछलियाँ पकड़ के ज़ाहिर मंद एरिया और वहाँ पे बेचते हैं और इनकी जो है उनसे रोजगार उनसे होता है.
Activists have long blamed the ongoing construction of multi-billion CPEC project has only brought death and destruction for the locals instead of economic opportunities. The first right on natural resources in Balochistan should be of the indigenous people, but they are being deprived of it by the Pakistani government.
In news from Afghanistan, the acting Commerce Minister of the Taliban-run administration has said they want international trade and investment as Afghanistan is facing isolation and suspension of some humanitarian operations over restrictions on women. The Taliban-led administration is facing increased isolation over policies in recent days restricting women from access to public life, including attending the university.
Taliban's acting Commerce Minister Haji Nuruddin Aziz has said that the Taliban-run administration will encourage self-sufficiency and wants international trade and investment as Afghanistan is facing isolation and suspension of some humanitarian operations over restrictions on women. Aziz, in an interview to Reuters news agency, said that countries including Iran, Russia and China were interested in trade and investment, and some of the projects under discussion were Chinese industrial parks and thermal power plants with involvement from Russia and Iran. He added that foreign investors were showing interest in Afghanistan's mining sector, which has been valued at more than $1 trillion.
البته کشور ایران با کشت فراسرزمینی خیلی قایل است، میخواد در زمین‌های افغانستان که نزدیک به آب‌های افغانستان سرمایه‌گذاری بزرگ بکنه. همچنان کشور چین می‌خواد این عرصه سرمایه‌گذاری داشته باشه. بعضی از کشورهای همسایه دیگه هم الحمدلله متقاضی هستند که در افغانستان در بخش زراعت، مالداری و در برنامه‌های صنعت و چیزهای افغانستان هم سرمایه‌گذاری کنند.
The Taliban-led administration is facing increased isolation over its policies in recent days, restricting women from access to public life, including attending university. Azizi, however, did not comment on the new restrictions. An order barring female NGO workers has thrown the humanitarian sector, which is providing urgent aid to millions of people, into disarray, with some organizations suspending operations in the middle of the harsh winter.
In news from Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka's President Ranil Wickremesinghe. In news from Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka's President Ranil Wickremesinghe on Monday told government employees that public service is not an 8-hour job, as he urged them to work overtime to make the cash-strapped island a prosperous nation in the year 2023. He said the government now has ability to provide fuel, gas, food and other items, but not all the economic problems are over yet.
Public service in Sri Lanka is not an 8-hour job, President Ranil Wickremesinghe said on Monday as he urged public servants to work overtime to make the cash-strapped island a prosperous nation in the year 2023. During an event at his office on Monday, Wickremesinghe said each person's duties cannot be limited to 8 hours a day and 5 days a week. By the end of 2023, I hope to take this country forward with the support of all of you and restore normalcy. Local media quoted him as saying, Sri Lanka was hit by an unprecedented financial crisis in 2022 due to a severe paucity of foreign exchange reserves that led to acute shortages of essentials and soaring inflation. In May, the Sri Lankan government declared a debt default on over $51 billion in foreign loans, a first in the country's history. The president said the government now has ability to provide fuel, gas, food and other items, but not all the economic problems are over yet. Sri Lanka secured a staff-level agreement for a $2.9 billion bailout package with International Monetary Fund last August. But the funds are yet to come as its approval hinges on financing assurances from creditors.
A large number of tourists thronged the Peacock Valley in India's eastern Cuttack city this past weekend as they came to kickstart the new year in the rare scenic environment. The small forest area boasts of over 150 peacocks. Have a look.
Peacock Valley in India's eastern Cuttack city saw a rush of tourists who came to kickstart the new year watching peafowls on Sunday. Tourists clicked photographs of the peafowls who were roaming in the open and watched them from a distance. Caretaker of the valley, Kannu Charan Behra, said his grandfather Pannu Behra in the year 1999 spotted 2 peahens and 1 peacock and took their care and fed them. Later, the population of the birds, as he gave them a safe haven, increased from 3 to over 100 now.
लॉकडाउन से पहले लगभग 108 पिकॉक थे। अभी लॉकडाउन में जब लोग यहाँ पर आ नहीं रहे थे तभी उनका डिस्टर्ब मत हुआ, पिकॉक डिस्टर्ब नहीं होकर अभी 163 से ज़्यादा हो गए पिकॉक।
After the death of his grandfather, Kannu Charan has been looking after the birds. Over the years, the spot near the Naraj firing range has become a popular tourist attraction and is known as Peacock Valley.
This is real exciting और न्यू ईयर नया साल पीकॉक से स्टार्ट करना इज़ द बेस्ट थिंग। और यहाँ पे इतने पीकॉक हैं मैंने आज तक कहीं पे नहीं देखे और दे आर सो क्लोज और वो यहीं पे वो हम जैसे फ्रेंडली होके खा रहे हैं, वो भैया उनको खिला रहे हैं, तो वो देखने बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है।
Kannu Charan mostly feeds the peacocks with rice grains, wheat grains or cooked rice. Apart from peacocks, the spot also has mongoose, pigeons and doves among other birds.
Well, that's all we have for you from South Asia this evening. Now our viewers can watch the show on SouthAsiaNewsline.com. You can also visit us on Facebook.com/SAsiaNewsline and follow us on Twitter @SAsiaNewsline. That's all in tonight's edition. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Good night.